Welcome to A.U.M. Ask Us Marketing. I'm Callie Fedosinko of Callie Collective, a digital marketing agency serving advisors like you with data-driven content, websites, and advertising. This episode is brought to you by the Financial Planning Association, otherwise known as the FPA. FPA is a great resource center that provides you with lots of support, learning, and advocacy. So just scan that QR code to learn more. Have you been interested in dabbling in some video? Maybe you already have started, but you have some questions and you want to know, how do I go viral? Well, today we've got Laura Garfield with us, who's going to talk about how you can become a Finfluencer. What is a Finfluencer? Let's find out. So welcome with me, Laura Garfield.
Hey, Callie. So great to see you.
It's good to see you too. So you do video and you're talking about Finfluencer. Tell me what that is.
It sounds like a made-up word, right? It's a real thing, and I think we can blame TikTok for it. The Finfluencers that you see on platforms like TikTok right now are spouting some not so great advice, like get out of your 401k, put it all into crypto, buy real estate. Things that, your average financial advisor would not support at all, which is why I'm calling the series that I've created The Real Finfluencers. Financial advisors do have some really great advice, and they need to be getting it out there to a broader audience.
I love that. So, Finfluencer, and I have seen some of this. Speaking of TikTok trends, this is a little off topic, but that's how I found my mascara. I went into the makeup store and they're like, there's this TikTok trend all about Clinique mascara. And let me tell you, it was real. It works really well.
But there is truth in trends.
Yeah, there is.
However, ask my 13-year-old and she can tell you she's bought a lot of cosmetics and only a portion of them are any good.
Exactly. Trial and error. And we don't want people to do trial and error with finances. So tell us.
Especially not your 401k, right?
Yes. So what have you learned doing this series? Like, what are people doing with their video that's working?
That's a great question. And that's exactly what I set out to find when I began interviewing these Finfluencers. So these are people that Idea Decanter is not running their marketing strategy for when it comes to video. These are advisors who on their own decided, hey, this is something I am going to set out and do and create. So I wanted to look for trends, for things that connected the success of people who really are really creating a digital footprint for themselves.
Yeah.
And I will say that these are not advisors who are necessarily going viral, but they have built up a following of fans who want to hear their content. And then many of them have taken that and used it to begin to convert those fans into clients when they are the right fit.
So they're doing it on their own. Are they solo advisors? Do they have a team? Because video production is a lot of work.
It really is. And I would say it's a mix of both. Some are solo, some are working on teams. Some have become so successful because of their video marketing efforts that they've had to build teams.
Interesting.
One story that really stands out for me is an advisor named Mondo Salavanti, and he has had to add a whole support system to his business because of his success. He added something in the order of 34 new clients last year.
Wow.
Because of his video marketing efforts. But I will tell you this, Mondo says he spends 4 hours a day on LinkedIn.
Every day.
It seems like a ton, right? Like you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's like half of your day is going to being on a platform.
Yeah.
But think about it. Mondo is fairly early in his career and he was cold calling for 4 hours a day. Would you rather be
Mm-hmm.
cold calling, or would you rather be
Right.
recording videos, pushing out content? And the key here is step 3, interacting with other people,
Yes.
because platforms like LinkedIn don't work
Yep.
if you don't work them.
Yep. So he got 34 new clients. What are his views like? Is he getting a ton, or is it just like the people who are seeing it are converting?
So because of his time dedication to LinkedIn, and he only
Mhm.
focuses on growing on LinkedIn, which is a real key to
Mm,
success when it comes to video marketing. Don't try to be all things to all people. Focus on 1 or 2 platforms where you can show up
right.
consistently and really interact. And he gets in there and will, comment and like people's in his second and third degree
Mm,
connections on LinkedIn, constantly cultivating new relationships, growing
yeah.
his followers. And so, yeah, he might get, thousands of views, but he's not getting millions of views, not
Right.
in like the Jake Paul kind of followers scenario or universe. But it doesn't really take that to be
Mhm.
successful and get ROI from video.
Um, Derek commented and said, engagement is key. Great point.
And Derek is fantastic at that. And I can tell you, Derek
Mhm.
cultivates a community on LinkedIn. If you know Derek, if he is in your posse, Derek is very frequently hopping into the comments below posts, starting up conversations, dropping in a piece
Mhm.
of knowledge, a piece of encouragement. And that is what it takes
Yeah.
to really leverage the platform and
Yes.
grow those relationships. I mean, they call it, you hear this all the time, but they call it social media because it's social. You have
Yep.
to engage.
Have any other things stood out to you about some of the more successful influencers?
Yeah, so short format content
Mm,
is king, and it is something that we are seeing at Idea Decanter.
mm,
It's we're about to launch a whole new package
mm,
specifically for short format vertical content. What
mm.
I'm talking about is, framed this way instead
Yep.
of framing it this way. Or if you're going to shoot it this way, shoot it wide enough so that you can crop
Right.
it this
Yep.
way. Because if you're on Instagram, Instagram Reels, YouTube
Mhm.
Shorts, and even the new videos tab that LinkedIn has rolled out, I don't know if you've been there to play and swipe just like the
Mm-mm.
TikTok experience.
Mm.
All of those are preferring vertical content that's under 60 seconds because
Mm.
that's how people are consuming these days. We're
Mhm.
the doom scrolling society.
Yep. I was just gonna say it's that mobile goes vertical.
Uh-huh.
Don't want to. I mean, how many of us look at our phones like this? Nobody. So portrait is big. And screen size. I did note. So we just had to get new phones over the weekend because all of everyone on my plan, our phones stopped working properly. Anyways,
Coincidence?
I know, right? They are a little bit longer than they were before. FYI.
They are. They don't fit your old case for sure.
Of course. And they have new cables again. Shocking. So yeah, I love that you're the portrait size. Um, is there a sweet spot in how frequently you're publishing to see results?
Well, publishing once a week
Mhm.
is becoming the minimum, but the more often you can be on a platform. So if it's YouTube you're working, or if it's Instagram you're working, if you can post something every day, there's a lot of value in going really hard for a short period of time too.
Mm,
There is some research into the algorithm that suggests that if you can post consecutively for 30 days in a row,
Mm.
that the algorithm begins to understand, hey, you are an expert in this.
Mm.
Kelly, you
Yeah.
are an expert in digital marketing. So
Right.
we are going to show you to more people who are looking for answers about digital marketing.
Yeah.
So if you could do a cadence of posting every day for 30 days, if you can post once a week, if you can post 3 times a week,
Mm.
what you really need to do is set a cadence that you can stick to that is realistic for you. Because just like those diets or the gym intentions that we
Mm.
have on January 1st, like that's great, but you have to have something that you can realistically stick to.
Yes, the consistency is key, and we see that a lot. Um, I tend to tell people to slowly work into, a rhythm, like start with what you know you can manage. But that's interesting to maybe start that first month with daily and then find a consistent number that works for you.
Hey, Suzanne.
Yeah.
We love the Make 'em groups so much. Really, video marketing experts. If you want to check out some great content when it comes to video, get on the Make
Mhm.
'em groups YouTube page or go to makeemgroup.com. And they have just some fantastic video content. And one thing that they
Wow.
do very well at the Make 'em group that is a theme that comes up over and over with the Finfluencers I've interviewed is sharing stories and
Mm,
getting personal, telling
right.
something about yourself, because that's what sets you apart. And in a business of trust, that's what people are looking to connect with, a real
Yes.
person.
Yes. I love Tracy's stories. Because you're always like, "Oh, yeah, that's like a real life scenario." I know it's real. Um, okay, good question for us. What about the length of videos? What How long should a video be in terms of reach and engagements?
The answer is it can be any length, and much of it depends on where they are in the lead funnel. And so
Mm,
if you're trying to have more of a brand touch or an impression and you're high in the funnel,
mhm.
um, short format content is where it's at. It's the vertical, it's 60 seconds or less. We find that the viewer attention span is really 3 to 5 seconds. We're like
So
goldfish.
short.
So definitely shorts, but think about the hook at the beginning of that video. I was looking at some research on YouTube. A
Yeah.
company had done a 12-month study on
Mm,
shorts that went viral on YouTube and
mm.
what they had in common. And they were not studying financial advisors, they were studying
Yeah,
everything that's out there.
right.
But one important theme they found was that the viral videos had something that happened in the first 3 to 5 seconds.
Mm,
And sometimes it was, a really tight crop in, a
mm.
movement of the camera, something came into frame, something left frame, there was a reveal, but something that really stopped you
Stopped the
as you're
scroll.
scrolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime we do metrics at Cali Collective, I it's amazing to me how short the attention span is of the world, really.
The interesting thing, though, is that when your prospect is deeper into the funnel and has begun
Mm,
to learn about you, has begun to buy into what you do, then they have an appetite for longer format
yeah.
content. And so that is where a webinar recording can really come into play.
Mm,
A deep dive into something that they will find valuable. And if people spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes on a recorded webinar with you,
yeah.
you are pushing them down to the funnel closer to the conversion
Yep.
point.
No, like, trust,
No
you
like
know? Get them
trust.
to go deeper and deeper.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. We've talked about videos, depending what your goal is, of course, should be short if you're posting on social and reaching out to strangers.
Mhm.
You should be engaging with your audience, building those relationships. Um, be prepared to spend time on this if you're doing it yourself or hire a team. What was something else? I feel like there's a fourth thing that you told us.
Let me share the screen and give you a look at some of these real Finfluencers we've interviewed so far. And along with things like consistency and getting personal, one thing I noticed that these advisors do really well
Mm-hmm.
is know their ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
And what they have done is really gotten into the heads of the people they want to work with who are a right fit for them. And
Yeah.
then they create content for them. Mike Zung here at the bottom came out of the software industry, and now he serves people in the software industry.
Mm.
And his content answers the pain points, answers the
Mm-hmm.
questions that those people have when it comes to what they need to know about their money.
Yeah.
Um, Mondo works with high performing sales executives. So folks who might have variable incomes, one
Mm-hmm.
month they kill it, the next month is leaner. And so he helps speak to the pain points of managing your money when you're
So
in that situation.
this is actually a great point. That brings up a question for me is I think it's easy to hit the pain points if you have a niche. What about people who don't have a niche and they're more general? Is there anything you can focus on? Because, I mean, I'm sure you experience this too, Laura. So many advisors that we work with, when we first start working, they say, I'm looking for someone 50 to 70, about to retire. And we're like, okay, great. So you and every other advisor.
Mhm.
So for those people who maybe never drill down further, how can they stand out?
Well, first of all, go get yourself a niche. But I know I hear the same thing, Kelly. Absolutely the same boat. I think it's a great idea to become kind of a reporter of your own client meetings. And
Mm,
for me, it's either a notebook or the notes app on my phone. And
yeah.
when a question comes up that sparks for me, someone else might also have this question, I record it. I write it down or put it in my phone. And then
Mm,
what happens is you eventually have this whole list of questions, pain points that your clients you're already working with are
yeah.
having. And that is a great place to start your
Mm,
content plan.
mhm. We did get a question here. Do you have a sample of a very short video or the text from it?
The text from a short video. I would say go and check out some of these real Finfluencers and see what they are doing. Kevin Thompson, we shared last week. He is fantastic. Um, and I think I can drop this link into the chat as a
Mhm.
good place for you to start. But tracking down their social profiles is one way to get a look at kind of what these
And I
folks are
just
doing.
put Kevin Thompson's name. I don't know the link, but at least there's his name if you want to come back and look for it.
Kevin Thompson, he's here. And is doing some amazing
Finally.
content. Kevin, one thing I love about his content is that he is relentlessly positive. And
Mm,
for me, watching a Kevin video is almost like getting a little dose of self-help.
mm,
Kevin is this sponge of information. He says he's always listening to podcasts and reading
mm,
books, and he brings his insights, his personal life insights, and shares them out in video, and just is a bright spot on my LinkedIn feed.
Yes. That's how I feel about Derek. I think how he leaves me a
Look at all
comment.
these bright spots who are with us today.
Uh, definitely love the positive stuff. Although I will say negative stuff unfortunately gets a lot of attention on social. But do you want to do that to get the views? I would say don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Being controversial and being willing to take a stand definitely has a place on social.
Mhm.
Not going with the flow, not being vanilla, not being milk toast. It makes a difference when you will say something like, hey, you're probably doing this wrong, or hey,
Mm.
this is going to screw up your finances for the rest of your life. Like, being a little controversial um, isn't a bad idea.
And I'm just going to add for anyone watching the QR code to Laura's Real Finfluencers. Let's see if I can do the right finger. This right here.
There.
I can never remember if I mirrored or not and which finger I have to point. Uh, okay, so these were some great tips. Anything else that you suggest for advisors? Maybe somebody who's just starting out. What should they focus on? Or actually, maybe somebody who already has video and they're like, yeah, I'm really disappointed in my results.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I would say what you're missing is a way to track conversions. So there
Mm,
used to be some conventional wisdom that it took something in the order of 7 brand touches to get someone to take action.
yeah.
That number is like 30 now.
Mm,
And so you think if you're doing video marketing, it is sort of a slow drip
yeah.
of influence you're having over someone. But a mistake I see advisors make all the time is not having a system in place to
Mm,
know if your marketing, whether it's video or anything else, is working.
mm,
And I have a really simple recommendation for that,
mhm.
and that is to put a survey in place, add it to your process for every prospect that comes in the door. And so
Mm,
some advisors we've talked to will now do this like in paper form if they're meeting people, just kind of a one pager. Some people, if you're doing virtual meetings, sending a link to a very simple short survey that takes
yeah.
2 minutes. But it's what kind of contact have you had with our brand up
Yeah.
until this point?
Right.
And, so many advisors will say, all of my business comes from referrals. Well,
Mhm.
sure, someone referred you, then that's a great way to get prospects in the door. But likely that person who was referred checked out your website first. They
Yep.
may have been following you for a year on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We have an advisor success story, an advisor named Darren
Mhm.
who does video marketing, and he got introduced to someone through one of his very happy clients.
Mm.
And he was Darren's in Boston, but he was out in San Francisco and had this kind of spur of the moment meeting with this prospect who had a business that was worth millions of dollars. It would have been a great fit
Mm.
client for
Mhm.
him. He says he walked in, he was a little unprepared and looked back on the meeting, really regretted it. Got a
Mm.
notice not very long after the meeting that the prospect had decided to go with a different advisor. And he was like,
Yeah.
great. He sent him a book on running businesses
Mm.
and successful exits and went about his standard video marketing everyday cadence.
Yeah.
And not every day. Darren posted a video once a month.
Mm.
Darren heard from that prospect who went with someone else a year later and said, "Hey,
Mm.
guess what? I think I made a wrong decision." He said,
Mhm.
"I have been watching your videos on LinkedIn. You've made a big impression on me. And ever since I signed up with this other advisor, that was the last I pretty much heard from them.
Yeah.
And I'd like to move." And so it doesn't always happen
Yeah.
right at the beginning. But if you're not finding some way to spreadsheet out how are people coming to me, how are they hearing about me, then you're really missing the boat in any kind of marketing,
Yeah.
because it's marketing often feels like a dotted line. And if you want to connect the lines, connect the dots with a straight line, you need to ask
Mm.
the questions.
That is so great. And I couldn't agree more because, yeah, we just did a series on how all these things that marketing can help build your referrals.
Mhm.
Because even though your clients might be sharing you, that, that doesn't stop there. Nobody's just going to call. They're going to look you up. They're going to see what you're about before
Mhm.
they meet with you or sign on. So I think that's a great point.
I hear from advisors all the time. I just started a conversation with a prospect and found out that they have been watching my content
Mm,
for 2 years. Like, it
yeah.
doesn't necessarily happen overnight. Not everybody is in that pain point moment that's going to get them to
Yep.
switch advisors.
Yeah.
But if you are consistently staying in front of them, you will be top of mind when that pain point moment
Yeah,
happens.
and I think there's something to be said about starting now and finding your voice as you go. We had uh Joe Saul Sehi, who's got it's like number 4 financial podcast on Apple. And he said, their first year, it was terrible. And it was that second year, and they changed their format. And after they changed their format, they had a huge success rate. So I think that there's something to be said. And we hear it often from our interviewers or interviewees, just get started.
Yes, and that would be my last piece of advice to someone who hasn't done it yet. And I heard this theme come up with Finfluencer after Finfluencer, and I
Mm,
think we've only published 5 of them. I think I've interviewed 18 of them
yeah.
now. But it's that the first video is the hardest.
Yep.
We say at Idea to Cantor, your first video is going to be your worst video.
Yep.
Rip off the Band-Aid, get that one out of the way. And
Yep.
each of these influencers, if they looked back on their early videos and what they can produce now, it's a world of difference. We get better with practice. So
Absolutely.
just do it.
Just do it and have Idea to Cantor help you. It'll make it go faster.
And Valley Collective.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Laura, and for your insight on what the real influencers are doing out there.
I appreciate you having me, Callie. This is fun.
Yeah, awesome. And if you are still with us, scan this QR code, get your marketing scorecard, see how you're doing. How is your marketing performing? How are you rating compared to other people? You can find out by taking this 2 minutes short questionnaire. And then make sure that you're going to join us next Monday when we talk with Matt Halloran about creating atomic content. What is atomic content?